Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Dan Turner, Head of Programming and Outreach for the Georgetown County Library System. Welcome to the DigiBridge series broadcast live from the Georgetown Library. Today is our fourth of 10 presentations by local experts on Georgetown County's deep and history and culture every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. throughout the month of August. If you miss a presentation live, all 10 will be available on the Georgetown County Library YouTube site. The DigiBridge series is sponsored by Bridge Grant from South Carolina Humanities with funding provided by the National Endowment for the Humanities. For Facebook Live viewers, please type any questions for our speaker in the comments section of our Facebook Live event. Today we have another special presenter, Vennie Deas Moore. After her work at the McKissick Museum in Columbia, Vennie returned home to Georgetown County, much to our community's value. Her day job now is as cultural historian on staff at the Rice Museum, a couple of blocks from us in the old market building, right down on Front Street here. You can't miss it under the town clock, and you shouldn't. The building's been there since 1842, and the Rice Museum's been housed inside since 1970. But Vennie's life's work is difficult to classify. We could apply several labels: cultural historian, folkways expert, photo documentarian. With her writing and her camera, she records traditions, people, and places in threat of disappearing. For her lifelong advocacy of the traditional arts of folklore and cultural preservation, Vennie was awarded the Jean Laney Harris Folk Heritage Award by the state of South Carolina. Today, she applies her skills to a fascinating topic, the confluence of rivers that has led to many historical and cultural confluences here at Georgetown's Winyah Bay. So please welcome Miss Vennie Deas Moore. Thank you, Vennie. Come on up. Exit stage left.
Stage left. Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm in my fun place, the public library. And basically what I'm going to talk about today is something that I treasure, is the waterways. Interesting enough, I have studied several waterways. One is the first one is where I was born. It's McClellanville, looking at the fishing industry and the bay and shrimping, and actually I wrote a book on it. My second waterway was when I was living in Columbia, South Carolina, studying the waterways, the rivers around Columbia, which is a different type of waterway. Now I'm so excited that I am now venturing into studying the Winyah Bay. And you know, after looking at the ocean and the rivers, I said, nothing is complicated about water until I found the Winyah Bay. It's very complicated and very hard to explore. So I'm hoping through this presentation you can explore Winyah Bay with me. First, I want to talk about what is the Winyah Bay, or how it is created, or what it is. Believe it or not, Georgetown, the bay leads into Georgetown, the town. And Georgetown is one of the oldest ports in the state. From the very beginning, we had 3 ports. We had Charleston, which is our greatest port, the largest port, and our earliest port. And then we had Beaufort, another port. And then the third port we have is Georgetown. And what's unique about Georgetown, a lot of people don't realize it, we're not on the ocean. Most ports you would figure that we're on the ocean, but we're not. We actually, we leave the river, the Atlantic Ocean, to the Winyah Bay, to the Sanford River. And so by the time you get to Georgetown, you've come through 3 sources of water. what again make us unique is because we're such a shallow bay. We're not like a Charleston or a Beaufort, particularly a Charleston. We can't get big ships in here. It's interesting. We only could pretty much get the thin, short ships coming in, the log ships. And so this is what mainly I'm going to talk about. And what I'm going to try to get you to understand, I want you to travel with me through this waterway, because that's what makes it so exciting. First, let's just talk about the city of Georgetown. Georgetown is one of the oldest cities here in South Carolina on the coast. And from the beginning, believe it or not, it was always a city. It was always a city. And what makes it unique, just think about it this way. I always tell people, think about going to New York. When you go to New York in the early days, you have nothing but an immigrant population, merchants, seamen, and stuff like that, even some pirates. So that's a Georgetown. So from the very beginning, we were a mercantile city, which makes it so exciting. And we still are, by the way. One thing that is an icon for us is our landmark. Our landmark is the clock tower. And what's so important about this? Well, first of all, it was first where the marketplace, the fresh market was. And at some point, it burned down, and we established a new building, which is the clock tower. As you can see, this is a gorgeous building. Right here, it was a jailhouse, it was a city hall, and it was where the city actually did its business or its negotiations. What's even more gorgeous about it is the clock. And to this day, the clock is so important to this city. And actually, at the Rice Museum, this is the main building I tour, and I just have to make you laugh for a minute. Cannot touch that clock because the city still depends on it for time, believe it or not. I know I hit the wrong switch one day and someone said the clock wasn't at the right time, so I had to figure it out. But this clock is still so important to the community. This clock tower is so important to the community. And this is more information about it. It was rebuilt in 1842. And a hurricane took it in 1822. That's when a hurricane took it. And like I said, it was the Chamber of Commerce and the police department. Now the port itself. The port has always been a very vibrant port from day one. It's always have had ships coming and going. And even to the day, it is very vibrant. Why is it vibrant now? It's because we have an industry of the paper mill here now. We have the seafood market. We have, believe it or not, pleasure ships coming in here, port. And what's so interesting, because I just moved here, it's like living in my story. I've studied this area for 30 years. And what's so interesting is for me to sit on this waterway and really start understanding it. And at one point, I would sit on the water and I'd see these sailboats coming in. I said, where are these sailboats coming in from? And then I realized that we are still a port. If you're coming from Canada and you're sailing down to Florida or Jamaica, guess where you stop for a week or so? Here. So through the time of migrating or having vacation from Canada all the way to Florida, this is where we stop. And here, actually, that's not that, but basically this is the earlier ship. In the earlier times, it's more of a schooner, four-masted schooner that is stopping in Georgetown, again, more for commercial reasons. The Sanford River. Now, where everything comes from the Winyah Bay is the Sanford River. And this is where we have all our industrial industry. This is where all our shipping happened. And in the very early days, we had lumbering. Lumbering was our main product in the earlier days before the Civil War. And actually, interesting enough, lumbering went all the way to 1940. And finally, the lumbering industry crashed. And after that, guess what we had? We got into the paper mill. And if anyone comes around here, I know you know the paper mill with the smell. So to this day, we still have the industry of lumber. This is another earlier view of the Sanford River. And you can see how active it is. And that was probably before the Civil War, post-Civil War. Now this is what it looks like today, the industrial town. And I have to read this. I think this is one. It has been a year since moving to Georgetown, South Carolina. Most remembered driving down Highway 17, the ocean highway, smelling the stench of the paper mill and looking at the rust on buildings from the old steel mill. Honestly, to be truthful, that's why I didn't come here for a while. Because it wasn't attractive going down Highway 17 when I saw that steel mill and smelled the odor of that paper mill. But just turn the corner on the front street and you'll see how gorgeous this port city is. Again, I mentioned earlier that we were first into logging. And the logging company was very, 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 one of the most successful logging industry in the country at one point. And it would have been from, I guess, the early 1900, the logging company from the early 1900 and 1940, just right after the Depression, and it crashed for some reason. And after that, we got into the paper mill. Again, you could see from the beautiful picture how active we were here in Georgetown. It's earlier date as that. Again, this is the beginning of the Southern Craft paper mill, 1937. Like I said, just about the time of 1940. And I think I could take this personally. My brother, my younger brother, actually from high school, and I'm old now, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but he actually worked at the paper mill all his life and retired from the paper mill. So it was a means of occupation for a lot of people here in Georgetown, along with the steel mill, but particularly the paper mill. And if you come here today, you will sit on the port and smell and see that beautiful smoke going into the sky, day and night. Now this is my favorite thing. This is my favorite. Oh my goodness. This is when I get off from work at the Rice Museum every day and I go and sit on the dock. And again, I talk about the leisure porting. And what I do is I don't have a boat, by the way, only wish I had, but I don't. But I sit on the dock and I just sit there and watch this beautiful image and see the sun go down almost every night. It is just gorgeous. And this is our harbor. So again, you have sailboats, you have fishing boat, all of the above. It's just gorgeous. Oh yeah. By the way, fishing. That's another one of our main industry is fishing, and it has always been. And this is one of our fishing docks. What I love best of all this, if you can see down here, this is Wilbur. This is our neighborhood Equid. Again, this fishing industry is very much a part. We have 2 to 3 fishing docks here, fish and seafood industries here. And believe me, if you stay around long enough, you will literally see the shrimp boat come in and you take it right off the boat. That's how fresh the seafood is here in Georgetown. And actually, for people who don't know, these are shrimp trawlers. I've been on them. Now, Winyah Bay. Winyah Bay is a sound and bays where it kind of comes from, like I said, from the Atlantic Ocean into the harbor. And honestly, of all the rivers I've studied and waterways I've studied, I've never really been on a bay. A bay is very interesting to be on. And it's very complex. It has a lot of different kind of flora and plants, and it's just gorgeous going down the Winyah Bay. Now, this is what I love. I want to explain to you how complicated this is. It took me a minute to understand it. So basically, on the Winyah Bay, you have the ocean, Atlantic Ocean out there, and then you kind of come into a mouth, and then you have the bay. And on this side here, you see some squares or blocks. Believe it or not, this was our earliest industry that made us millions. that is rice fields. Right here are the rice fields. And during the period of enslavement, we had so many rice fields here in Georgetown County along the river, and I call the puff mud the swamps. It made millions for the planters, and that's what that is. And then you come on up and you go straight up in the middle, and eventually you'll hit Georgetown. That's why I said, don't worry about cruise ship coming in here. Then you're not going to get there. So this is what it looks like. Again, this is the waterway. I took a trip maybe about a month ago looking at the waterway because I had to kind of understand it, to talk about it. I was simply amazed because I've been on a lot of waterways. And this one was very unique because first you have the calming of the bay. And then all of a sudden you start seeing these tides coming in. And that's when you know you're almost to the ocean. So you have like the stillness of the Sanford River, then you go into the bay and you get a little bouncy. Then pretty soon you get into the ocean area with the tides and you get even bouncier. So I felt that to be very interesting to go through so many water levels or characters of water in one trip. That's what's so gorgeous about it. That's where you can see the kind of tides starting to come in. I've mentioned real quickly the rice fields. We had so many rice fields around these rivers. Matter of fact, let me just tell you real quickly. We have the Winyah Bay, we have the Sanford River, and after that we have fingers of rivers standing from that. And from those fingers of river is where you would have the swamp. You know, you think of river, oh, that's cute. No, it's not cute. That's puff mud, swamp. So after you leave Georgetown, you go into the rivers, you have nothing but swamps. I can't say it any better. And this is where they did a lot of rice fields, and that's what brought us so much money before the end of slavery. And you say, why till the end of slavery? Guess what? It took thousands of enslaved people from the grain coast of West Africa, which I call the rice growers, to plant these rice fields, develop these rice fields out of the swamp. And with that, that's why the money came in, because they were rice growers from West Africa. So what ends it? Emancipation. It took thousands of enslaved rice growers from West Africa to do these rice fields, and after that, we could no longer have rice. Number one, it was against the law called in the proclamation, Emancipation Proclamation, and second of all, we couldn't replace it with cows and tractors. I'm just going to quote my mother. She's a wonderful person. She should be the historian talking here. She said, I went out there one time, and I actually went into the swamps, into the puff mud, and I walked in the wrong place on the rice fields, and I sunk to my waist. That's how hard it is to walk out there. And I went home I told her, I said, Mom, you know, I was out in the rice fields today. She said, you were where? I said, well, I was in the rice fields. She said, you were not. You better not go back. She said, we've lost whole cows out there. We can't even take cows out in those swamps. So please don't go back out in the rice fields. So what the point I'm trying to make is after we lost 1,000 workers, we could not convert it because machinery, cows and horses couldn't do the work. Okay, and since we're talking about what happened to the rice fields after the emancipation, after the Civil War, we couldn't use it. We just, like the planters, I always say it this way. The planters, after they lost their workforce, and it was illegal for them to use workers for free, they were then, and oh yeah, by the way, they lost the war. So that, at this point, the planters that made all this money, millions, were, I always explain as dirt poor and land rich. Dirt poor and land rich, because they did not have the financial resources they had with these rice fields anymore. So basically after that, I would say like this, and sometimes when I give this tour in the rice museum, people look at me real strange. I say the North returns. What do you mean the North returns? People like the Baruch family, the Vanderbilts, the very, very wealthy Northerners came in and switched these rice fields in these luxurious areas. Well, I won't call the swamp really luxurious, but they switched them into bird hunting clubs. So this is what this is showing. Baruch is one of the family that converted the rice fields into bird hunting clubs. And we had people coming in from the wealthiest coming in from all over the country. Let's give me some example. Our presidents came here to have the resort area. We had very wealthy people, and one of the places I want do want to mention, which most people may recognize as Brook Green Garden. That's what started Brook Green Garden. It was the wealthy Huntingtons that came in from the north and developed this beautiful garden. So basically the rice fields, a lot of it became hunting lodges, and it also became gardens, beautiful gardens. Again, to this day, our coastal swamps not only have swamp, but it has wonderful fishing, oystering. I've been out there doing that too. Oystering and all these other variety, vast number of seafoods and sea organisms, or whatever you want to call it. But that's what we do. We do a lot of fishing in the creek. This is what this is showing. Okay. Now, how did I learn about some of this? Basically, I took a boat tour, wonderful, and I'm sorry I didn't do one boat tour. I can't talk a lot, but I did some boat tours out to what we call the North Island. We'll talk more about explain to you in a minute what the North Island was. But the North Island basically was at the edge of the Winyah Bay, meeting up with the ocean. And basically, like I said, the waterway changes a lot. If you're not careful, you got a bad storm coming in, you're gonna get it. Your boat is gonna be lost. So basically what this is showing, go back, what does that mean? This is Captain John Matthew that took me on the boat trip down the Winyah Bay. And it has a lighthouse, and basically, I'll tell you real quickly what this is. People were lost all the time on this waterway, going from the rough water to the calm water, going from the calm water to the rough water. And this young lady, what you're showing a picture here, she actually drowned at one time. She was the daughter of the lighthouse keeper. And basically the story goes is, if you go out there and the water is changing and the tide is changing, you may die. So she'll come out and warn you. And basically what she'll say, go back, go back. And there are some fishermen that said that they actually saw her, and they switched around and they went back to save their lives, and all of a sudden a big storm comes into the bay, and that's basically what this is about. The North Island Lighthouse. Now the tour that I took on this wonderful boat took us to the North Island. This is her father. This is the lighthouse her father took care of. And it's right almost on the tip of the Winyah Bay. And what's so interesting about it, it's a beach. It's like a beach. It's just amazing. And then this is an older picture of it. 1812 was established in 1812. And I think the hurricane kind of messed it up in 1822. So that's the North Island Lighthouse. Now, how I got out there. Okay, I didn't walk out there, I didn't drive out there. I went with Captain Ross, Low Country, and we visited this island. It's fabulous. It is a lighthouse, eagles, dolphins, maybe you might even get to see a turtle. And like I said, when you come on to the North Island, you would think you're on, again, the landscape changes so rapidly. It changes into the beach. And you can find all kinds of shells and everything out there. It's just gorgeous. And by the way, only way you get there is by boat, by the way. And look at that. Isn't it amazing? It's high ground, and then you see some fossil plants, and then you see the palmetto trees and other trees out there. So when we went on the boat, I think we were out there for 30 minutes. It was just gorgeous, like being on the beach. Harvest Moon. I'm going to step back a minute during the Civil War. The Bay was very active during the Civil War. Basically, it was all sailors, the Union coming in, taking up the land. And a lot of people know about the Civil War, and I keep telling people, no, they did not burn Georgetown. And everybody thinks the Civil War, the cities were burned. No, basically they blockaded the waterway. And they took over Georgetown as a port by blockading the waterway. And the Harvest Moon is interesting. One of the military Union captains or person in charge actually was taking breakfast one day. and the harvest moon kind of went out in the water, and it accidentally hit onto a torpedo, and it was gone. Luckily, because he was having breakfast in Georgetown, I don't think many people died on this during the harvest moon sinking. But the important thing, this is a wonderful folklorist, Paige Sawyers. The good news is that, not the good news, but the important news as a historian like me, part of it's still there. And you can literally, when you go out in this water, you can actually see it's a smokestack of the harvest moon. And it's still sitting out there to the day. So a lot of time when we do tours out there, you can actually see the harvest moon, the smokestack of the harvest moon. And going back to the Civil War, I don't know how many people have heard about the planter, but the planter was actually navigated by Robert Small, who was a enslaved person in Beaufort. And interesting enough, I would say his father, I could safely say that, but his owner, taught him how to sail the planter. And when the war broke out, he literally stole the planter from Beaufort area and brought it across the Charleston line and literally donated it to the Union. So as you read a lot, this was the Navy, as you read through all the paperwork, everybody's talking about the planter. And what Robert Small, he actually ended up being part of Congress, I believe. He was in Congress after the Civil War. And so why is it important to Georgetown? After the war was over, they gave the boat back to the original owner, and this planter would come and go back and forth to the Georgetown Harbor as a mercantile boat. So that's what the planter is. Oh yeah, that's me. I had such a wonderful time on North Island that day, and you could see how gorgeous it is out there. So basically, that's my story, and I cannot tell you enough. You got to do it yourself. I'm just going to give the credits. Again, I'm going to say like this. I just started this research, you guys. It is such a fascinating, in-depth story. So let me just refer you to where to go to get the information. Captain Rod's Low Country Tours, the Lighthouse Shell Island Tours, the Georgetown Rice Museum, and the South Carolina Maritime Museum. If you really want to get more of the story, go to these places and have some wonderful tours with them.
Thank you so much, Vennie. That was wonderful. And we really appreciate it so much that another terrific installment of our DigiBridge lecture series, and with a lot of, as usual with Vennie, she gave us a lot of information to digest, but she also gave us a lot of further routes or waterways to continue traveling on.
And these are my reference.
And some more reference books here. The Gem of the Atlantic Seaboard by Ronald E. Birdwell. And of course, we had Elizabeth Huntsinger with The Ghost of Georgetown here as one of our lecturers earlier. So, one river takes a lot of branches outward, and so we really appreciate that expansive history, both deep and branching out, just like the rivers here from Vennie Deas Moore, and one of our great friends with the library system. And we thank her, and we thank the South Carolina Humanities for making this possible with funding from the National Endowment for the Humanities. And we'll be back again on Thursday at 2 p.m. with Justin McIntyre from the South Carolina Maritime Museum, which is right next to the Rice Museum there on Front Street. So you can do a 2-for-1 visit right here and see what rich and great history we have here in person in Georgetown. So there's a lot going on. Much appreciated again with Vennie, and Thank y'all for joining in. If you missed the Facebook Live presentation, it will be available both here on the Facebook page, but also the edited video on our Georgetown County Library YouTube channel. Have a good afternoon.